Thank you so much, Haley, and thank you to the elected officials to Protect America for hosting this press conference. Thank you to all my brothers, sisters, and siblings in arms, Dan, Alex, Marisol. Thank you for being in the fight together. I agree wholeheartedly with Councilmember Kalb. It's unfortunate that we as current and former elected officials even have to be here right now, urging the state to do more. And yet here we are. And as I have come to learn firsthand over the past 100 days, the cost of status quo is unacceptable. What I have experienced over that period of time, when entire neighborhoods in which I played as a child, in which my family members in Ukraine have had to hide in bunkers for weeks at a time, in which millions of my former countrymen and countrywomen have been displaced. It is absolutely related to the other existential crisis we face, the one of climate change. You see, Putin's murderous war has been financed by $285 million a day from sales of Russian oil. And that is just oil. That does not include other fossil fuels, including I'm just going to call it gas. Someone in the Sierra Club once told me there's nothing natural about natural gas, and I absolutely agree. We owe it to our shared humanity to act decisively today. We can help protect democratic nations that are still reliant on fossil fuels to become energy secure by showing them the way here in these United States of America and in California. Because as brother Vice Mayor Walker Griffin says, I absolutely agree, as goes California, so goes the nation. The leverage that Putin wields over countries that are reliant on fossil fuels are hard to overemphasize. And in addition to that, oil and gas CEOs, to a previous speaker's point, engage in the price gouging of Americans. And these executives don't care about our national security or the hardships to their customers. They care about profits. Gas is the largest source of electricity in the US and certainly in California. It's also the heating fuel that Europe depends on a belligerent Russia to supply. And of course, we know that this is a major contributor to our climate crisis. Just in the last few weeks, the actions that thousands of us within elected officials to protect America have taken, calling on the Biden administration to invoke the Defense Production Act, to move as quickly as possible to invest in democratically owned, democratically controlled renewable energy, have paid off when he, with the power of his pen, have signed this. Now, there is an opportunity for California to leverage that. We can do so much more. And we are doing a lot, to be clear. Right now, we are leading the nation in distributed generation. Since the Million Solar Roofs initiative was started in 2006, there have been nearly 1.5 million solar panels and solar arrays that have been put on roofs, garages, farms, open spaces, businesses, nonprofits. And they do it in a way that completely comports with our other conservation goals like 30 by 30, in short, setting aside 30% of our land for conservation purposes by 2030, since they don't take a lot of space. Since 2006, these customer solar systems have avoided 22 million metric tons of CO2, which is the equivalent of getting 4 million cars off the road for a year, 16,000 tons of smog pollutants, equivalent to the annual pollution of 3.8 billion cars, at least 360 trillion British thermal units of gas, equivalent to the annual consumption of 20 large natural gas-fired power plants. We have avoided 5 million metric tons of carbon per year. And yet, as was pointed out earlier, CARB, the California Air Resources Board, and let me be clear, this is a staff recommendation, so there is an opportunity for the appointed members of CARB to do something different. But what staff is recommending is alternative 3. Alternative 3 is going to double down on the wrong part of the energy supply. It is proposing to introduce new 10 gigawatts of new gas-fired generation and double down on false solutions like carbon capture and storage, which we know are prohibitively expensive, are ineffective, and frankly, that money could be better spent investing in more renewable energy faster. So on Thursday, I'm going to be joining our allies in these flyover counties. I like to call them frontline communities. We are going to be at the gates of CARB and in the public hearing room, calling on our decision makers and calling on the governor to be more ambitious during this time. We already know that we have enough distributed generation to be able to take the last nuclear plant offline in 2025. We can continue to double down in renewables. We can invest in new technologies, distributed generation, as well as offshore wind power and large-scale solar as well, to be able to lead the way for the rest of the nation. I also had the privilege 3 weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, joining Mayor Harmon, who will speak next, at the same hearing room I'm going to be going to again on Thursday, calling on our decision makers to ensure that by the year 2030, at least 75% and ideally 100% of all new car sales will be zero-emission vehicles. And that absolutely does mean that we need to do more to ensure that that is an equitable purchase that is accessible for frontline communities. We need to double down and dramatically expand our infrastructure for electric vehicle chargers so that everyone is able to have that access. The last thing I'm going to talk about is, how about that solar? Why are we not investing in distributed generation? Unfortunately, our decision makers are actually going backwards on that question. The California Public Utilities Commission, another influential agency whose board members are also appointed by the governor, have been proposing various ways to tax rooftop solar, specifically at a time when we should be doing the absolutely opposite thing. So today, there's actually an opportunity from now until 5 p.m. to call the governor's office. I'm going to give you the number, and then I'm going to put it in the chat. It's 916-445-2841. Today is the summer solstice. For every 897 minutes of sunlight that we get to enjoy today, I ask you to help lodge 897 calls to the governor. The ask is simple. No solar tax. Don't send solar off a cliff. And make rooftop solar paired with storage more affordable, not less, especially for working and middle-class folks. Together, we can ensure that the voices of the communities that we serve are heard louder than the massive amounts of money that has been spent by the petro industry in California, as well as failed petrostates throughout the world. As my childhood friend in Ukraine, hiding in a bunker for much of the invasion